The universe was silent, endless, and cold. Stars blinked like distant promises, and planets drifted in lonely orbits, unaware of the life that flickered elsewhere. Across this vast emptiness, humans had carved a reputation that no other species could ignore. They were fierce, clever, and relentless. The galaxy called them the deadliest human fleet, a force feared for their courage, their strategy, and their unshakable will. Captain Alara Dane stood on the bridge of the SS Vanguard, her eyes scanning the stars through the panoramic view. The ship was alive with motion. Crew members running to stations, engineers monitoring engines, pilots ready for orders. Yet her attention was fixed on a single blinking light on the main console, a distress signal. It came from the dark fringe of the galaxy, a place few dared to enter. The message was short, urgent, and desperate. SOS. We are being hunted. We cannot survive alone. Please help. The sender was unknown. The language was complex, unlike any human dialect, but its meaning was clear. An alien species was in danger. The Council had warned them about the fringes of the galaxy, about traps and predators that preyed on the curious. But warnings did not sway humans. Humans answered calls for help. Alara's fingers rested lightly on the edge of the console. She felt the familiar rush of adrenaline, the same feeling that had carried her through countless battles. She turned to her crew. Set a course for the source. Prepare the fleet. We're going in. There was a pause, a quiet tension that settled over the bridge. Hyperspace jumps were dangerous, especially near unexplored systems. Yet the crew moved with precision, fueled by trust in their captain and the unspoken bond that had formed over years of service. Humans did not hesitate. They answered the call. The fleet surged forward, engines roaring, lights flashing, and the very air of the ships humming with power. Ships of sleek steel and fire threaded through the void, cutting across distances that would have taken others centuries to traverse. This was not just a fleet, it was a statement, a symbol of human determination and unity. When they dropped out of hyperspace, the system was a scene of devastation. Planets bore the scars of warfare, moons were shattered into floating debris, and the orbital station that had sent the distress call hung in the void like a broken crown. Smoke and fire twisted through the darkness, and the sensors picked up faint, erratic life signs. On the bridge, the crew fell silent. Ensign Rilo whispered, trembling, "Captain, it's worse than we thought." Alara's eyes narrowed. The system had been attacked. But by whom and why? Humans did not flinch even when the odds seemed impossible. They studied the signals, scanned the debris, and readied themselves. Whatever had destroyed this civilization, humans would confront it. Humans did not abandon those in need. A weak signal flickered from the station's ruins. It was almost lost in the static, a trembling voice barely audible. "Please, help. We are all that remains." Alara's chest tightened. These creatures, whatever they were, had been hunted to the edge of extinction. Fear and hopelessness clung to their transmission, but the humans who stood on the bridge felt a spark of something else: responsibility, courage, and empathy. Humans were not just fighters. They were protectors. "Deploy reconnaissance drones," she ordered. "Scan every inch of that station. Identify survivors. We move in cautiously, but we move in." The fleet responded instantly, drones zooming into wreckage, scanning for movement. Life signs flickered, small, fragile, almost imperceptible. Alara felt a mix of relief and sorrow. There were survivors, but the devastation was staggering. Every signal carried the weight of fear and grief. Lieutenant Kor, her second in command, stood beside her. "Captain, they are alive, but they're barely holding on. We have to act fast." Alara nodded, her eyes steady. "Then we save them. No matter what it takes. That is what humanity does." As the fleet moved closer to the heart of the system, engines humming, weapons ready, a quiet determination settled over everyone. They were entering a battlefield. But this was not about glory or conquest. This was about life, hope, and courage in the face of annihilation. Somewhere in the darkness, creatures waited, trembling with fear and clinging to hope. And soon they would see the deadliest human fleet in all its fearsome glory. not as enemies, but as saviors, because humans, no matter how deadly, always answered the call. The SS Vanguard led the fleet closer to the shattered station. Smoke and debris twisted through the dark void like ghosts of a lost civilization. Sensors scanned the wreckage, searching for survivors. Then the first sign of movement appeared. Fast, jagged, and threatening. Alien ships emerged from the debris, shapes like nothing humans had catalogued. Dark, angular, with weapons that pulsed like veins of fire. They moved as if the void itself obeyed their command. Unknown vessels approaching. The sensors warned. The crew tensed. Captain Ilara Dane's voice was calm but commanding. Battle stations. Weapons hot. Focus on defense first. Protect our path to the survivors. The deadliest human fleet responded with precision. Lasers arced across space, shields flared, and engines screamed as ships twisted through attacks. Humans had fought countless wars, but this was different. These attackers were faster, smarter, and seemingly without mercy. Yet the humans did not flinch. Ensign Rilo's hands shook as he aimed a targeting module. They're everywhere, Captain. Ilara's eyes narrowed. Then we become everywhere. Focus fire, hit their weak points. No hesitation. The first wave of alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes. Yet more came, faster than anyone expected. Their weapons tore through space like storms, and human pilots dodged, countered, and struck in a deadly rhythm that seemed almost like a dance. Every strike was precise, every movement coordinated. This was why the galaxy feared humans, not for numbers, not for brute force, but for strategy, courage, and unity. Amid the chaos, the first alien survivor's voice came through the comms, trembling with fear. Humans, please. We mean no harm. They betrayed us. Save us. Ilara felt a pang of something rare in war. Compassion. These creatures were victims, not enemies. She gave a command that stunned even her crew. Hold fire on any small or unarmed vessels. Focus only on those attacking or hunting. Protect the helpless. The fleet shifted immediately, adjusting formations, altering targets. Humans fought like a storm, a mixture of fire and protection. The attacking ships were powerful, but the deadliest human fleet was relentless. Each human pilot, soldier, and engineer knew what they had to do. Destroy the threat, save the innocent, and survive to protect life. Amid the explosions and flashing lasers, the survivors' weak signals guided the fleet through the debris. Tiny, fragile life signs blinked on the sensors, and the humans moved with careful precision, shielding the vulnerable from every blast, every collision. For the first time, this deadly fleet was more than a weapon. It was a shield. Lieutenant Kor leaned over Ilara's console, whispering, "Captain, they're scared. Some are injured. They've barely survived this attack." Ilara's jaw tightened. "Then we give them what they need, safety." No excuses, no hesitation. The battle raged on. Alien ships fell in waves, but more appeared like shadows rising from the darkness. The humans adapted, changing tactics instantly, sacrificing speed for protection when necessary. Every move carried weight. Every decision was life or death. And yet, despite the chaos, a strange emotion spread across the bridge. Hope. The alien survivors, terrified and weak, were still alive. They had expected annihilation, but humans had arrived instead. Humans did not fight for greed or conquest in this moment. They fought to save. Rilo, watching the battle unfold, whispered almost in awe, "Captain, they actually hope now." Ilara's eyes softened, though her gaze never left the stars. Hope can be stronger than fear. Sometimes that is what wins wars, Rilo, not weapons, but courage. Minutes stretched into hours. Explosions lit the void, smoke and fire painting the darkness in bursts of red and gold. Yet through it all, humans pressed forward, relentless and unwavering. They carved a path to the survivors, destroying only what threatened life. The deadliest human fleet was living up to its name, but not for terror or fear. For the first time, their reputation was being written in courage, mercy, and determination. At last, the drones detected multiple life signs clustered in the remains of a small shuttle, twisted metal hugging the tiny figures inside. Ilara's heart clenched. They were alive, but barely. Their survival depended on human skill, bravery, and decisiveness. Ilara straightened. Prepare boarding teams, we go in. Every life matters. The fleet moved as one, human ships shining in the darkness, engines cutting through debris, weapons ready but aimed carefully. The attackers still prowled, but the humans did not hesitate. They were predators, yes, but predators with purpose, and that purpose was to save the helpless no matter the cost. Somewhere in the darkness, the survivors huddled together, trembling, listening to the hum of human ships. Soon they would see that humanity's fire was not just destructive. It could protect, heal, and inspire. Because humans, the galaxy had learned, were not only the deadliest, they were also the most compassionate when life hung by a thread. And so, the battle for survival truly began. The small shuttle floated among the wreckage like a fragile leaf in a storm. Its twisted metal hull bore marks of battle, scorch marks crossing the sides and smoke curling from the cracks. Inside, the surviving aliens huddled together, shivering with fear. Their glowing eyes reflected the lights of the human fleet outside. Wide with disbelief, they had expected predators, killers, or conquerors, but not saviors. Captain Ilara Dane led a team to the shuttle. She stepped carefully over the jagged debris and extended her hand to help the first alien out. The creature recoiled at first, trembling, but the gentle tone in Ilara's voice calmed it. "You are safe now," she said. "We won't hurt you." The alien, small and fragile, lowered its head. Its voice was soft, trembling like a dying flame. You are humans," it whispered. "We thought we would be destroyed. All of us." Ilara nodded, her eyes scanning the others. They were families, small groups, creatures injured and weak clinging to each other. Their fear was raw, and the weight of loss hung heavy in the air. Humans had expected danger, but the devastation here was worse than any battlefield they had ever fought. Lieutenant Kor stepped forward, examining the shuttle's control console. "Captain, it's amazing they survived this long. They've been hiding, avoiding the hunters for days, maybe weeks." Ilara's gaze softened. "We'll get them to safety," she said. "And then we'll find out who did this." One alien stepped forward, taller than the rest, with eyes that glowed brighter than the others. It moved carefully, every step measured. "I am Theron," it said. Its voice shook, but there was strength underneath the fear. "You saved our lives. But the others, they are gone. Our home, destroyed. We were betrayed." The words hung in the cold air, heavy and bitter. Betrayed. The humans listened in silence, absorbing the weight of the statement. They had faced countless enemies, but betrayal, especially the deliberate kind, was something that sparked a fire in human hearts. "Who betrayed you?" Ilara asked quietly. She knelt slightly so her face was at eye level with Thyron. "Tell me everything. We need to understand so this ends." Thyron's glowing eyes flickered with sorrow and pain. "The Varkesh, our allies, turned against us. We had shared knowledge, technology, trust, and they wanted our resources, our systems. When we refused, they hunted us. One by one, we were slaughtered. Our worlds burned. Our children. Our elders. Gone." Ilara felt a pang of anger twist in her chest. Humans had a reputation for fierce retaliation, but this was a crime against life itself. She clenched her fists. "They will pay," she said simply, her voice steady and resolute. "No one destroys the helpless and walks away, not while humans are near." The aliens stared at her, a mixture of awe, disbelief, and hope shining in their eyes. They had known fear for generations, had learned not to trust outsiders. And yet here were humans, terrifying in power but gentle with mercy. The paradox left Thyron almost speechless. Lieutenant Kor looked at Ilara. "Captain, they're counting on us. They've survived horrors no species should ever face, and now they are placing their hope in humans." Ilara's eyes hardened with determination. Then we will not fail them. Humans do not leave the helpless behind. That is who we are. The survivors' trembling began to ease as human medics approached, carrying supplies and first aid. Slowly, fragile hands reached out to help, to touch, to reassure. Hope began to grow where there had been none. Even in the quiet, dangerous void of space, there was a sense of something stronger than fear. Trust. The aliens had seen humans in action, had felt their power and compassion, and for the first time in their lives they dared to believe that survival was possible. Alara turned to the fleet in orbit above the wreckage. Prepare for transport. We take them to safety, and then we find the Varkesh. The deadliest human fleet had faced countless foes, but now their purpose had transformed. They were no longer just warriors. They were guardians. Their power had a new weight, the protection of life, the defense of the innocent. As the survivors were escorted aboard the Vanguard, Theron looked back at the remains of their home, his glowing eyes heavy with sorrow. Yet in his heart a fragile spark of hope began to glow. The humans had arrived not as conquerors but as saviors, and that spark, small as it was, promised a chance to rebuild, a chance to survive, and perhaps one day, a chance to see justice done. Alara watched the stars outside, her mind focused. The galaxy was cruel, but humans had a way of answering the impossible, stepping into darkness and lighting the way. She whispered to herself, almost like a vow. No one will suffer if we can prevent it. Not while humans are here. Somewhere in the void of space, survivors began to believe again. And that belief, so fragile yet so powerful, was about to shake the galaxy. The fleet moved through the dark void toward the Varkesh fortress world. Jagged asteroids drifted around the planet like silent sentinels, and massive energy shields glimmered ominously in orbit. This was no ordinary stronghold. It was a fortress built to intimidate and annihilate anyone who dared approach. Yet the humans did not hesitate. They had survived countless battles, faced unimaginable threats, and now they had a purpose that burned hotter than any weapon: to protect the helpless and bring justice. Captain Alara Dane stood on the bridge of the SS Vanguard, eyes fixed on the fortress. "This is it," she said softly. "This is where justice begins." Lieutenant Kor studied the readouts, pointing at the shield generators. "There are 3 main nodes protecting the planet. We'll need to take them down simultaneously, otherwise the surface forces will overwhelm us." Alara nodded. "Prepare the strike teams. We move fast, we strike hard, and we protect each other. Remember, this isn't just about revenge, it's about saving lives and showing the galaxy what humans stand for." The fleet advanced, weaving through asteroid belts and debris. Varkesh patrols sprang from the shadows, ships jagged and deadly, weapons glowing red as they fired. Lasers streaked across the void, explosions lighting up the darkness like fireflies in a storm. Yet the humans moved with precision, dodging, countering, and striking with deadly coordination. From orbit, human snipers and assault teams descended onto the planet's surface. The terrain was jagged, industrial, and harsh. Smoke rose from the energy fields, and automated turrets scanned for intruders. But humans adapted instantly. They used the environment to their advantage, striking from cover, disabling defenses, and rescuing any prisoners or weaklings caught in the chaos. Alara led the first assault, her presence steady and commanding. She moved among her soldiers, directing them, lifting fallen comrades, and giving orders that carried both authority and reassurance. Her voice cut through the chaos. "Keep moving. Protect each other. Watch every corner." The Varkesh fought fiercely. They had expected fear, hesitation, or even retreat. But humans were neither. Every strike was deliberate, every maneuver precise. They fought with a combination of strategy and instinct, moving as a single, unstoppable force. Each human soldier carried not only weapons but the weight of a promise. No one would die if they could prevent it. In the chaos, human medics worked tirelessly, patching wounds, carrying injured soldiers to safety, and tending to alien survivors who had joined the fight. Theron moved among them, awe in his glowing eyes, watching the humans protect life even while destroying enemies. He had expected merciless conquerors, but humans were something different. A force that combined lethal skill with compassion. The battle raged from orbit to surface. Explosions shook the ground and rattled the fleet in orbit. But the humans pressed forward. Slowly, systematically, they disabled the shield generators one after another. Each strike was precise, each victory opening a path for the next wave. Finally, with a massive explosion, the last shield node fell. The fortress's defenses flickered, then died. Human ships surged into the open, weapons blazing, cutting through the remaining Varkesh fleet. On the surface, soldiers moved into the heart of the stronghold, where the Varkesh command had taken refuge. Elara's heart pounded with focus. "This ends now," she said. "We protect the innocent and remove the threat." No hesitation. As the humans advanced, the Varkesh realized too late that they had underestimated their enemy. Humans did not fight for greed or power in this battle. They fought with purpose, a clarity that left the Varkesh reeling. Every attack was a statement. Betrayal and cruelty would not go unpunished. Every rescue was a promise. Life would be defended no matter the cost. Hours passed, but the humans did not relent. The fortress was breached, the command destroyed, and the remaining Varkesh scattered or surrendered. The battlefield, though scarred and smoking, now belonged to the humans. They had brought order to chaos, mercy to cruelty, and hope to the hopeless. Lieutenant Kor approached Elara on the bridge of the Vanguard, breathing heavily, but smiling. "We did it, Captain. The Varkesh, they're finished." Elara's eyes softened, but her voice remained firm. "Not finished. Just reminded. The galaxy must remember that humans answer the call when life is in danger. That is what we do." From orbit, the surviving aliens looked down at the humans who had saved them, tears in their glowing eyes. Thyron whispered, barely audible, "They are more than warriors. They are saviors. I have never seen a species like this." Elara watched the stars beyond the fortress, her heart steady. The Varkesh were defeated, but this was more than a victory. This was a statement to the galaxy. Humans were not only deadly, they were relentless defenders of life. And the echoes of this battle would be felt across the stars for generations. The deadliest human fleet had entered the lair of betrayal, and now the galaxy would see the true strength of humanity, not in fear, but in courage, compassion, and unwavering resolve. The battlefield was quiet now, but the silence carried the weight of loss. Smoke curled from shattered fortresses, and debris from destroyed ships drifted through space like frozen memories. The Varkesh threat had been crushed, their fortress destroyed, and their fleet scattered. Yet the victory had not come without cost. The deadliest human fleet had taken casualties. Ships lay broken in orbit, their metal torn and blackened. Brave soldiers, men and women who had faced impossible odds, were gone. On the bridge of the SS Vanguard, Captain Elara Dane stood in silence, staring at the stars beyond. Her hands clenched and unclenched, a quiet reminder of the lives lost, the sacrifices made. Lieutenant Kor approached her, his face pale under the soft lights of the bridge. "Captain, the fleet. We lost too many. Some of our best, gone." Elara nodded, her jaw tight. "I know, every life matters. Every one of them. And we honor them by continuing to protect those who cannot protect themselves." Below, in the wreckage of the fortress, the surviving aliens watched the humans move among the debris. Thyron, the fragile leader who had survived the Varkesh attack, followed a team of medics tending to injured humans. His glowing eyes reflected sorrow and awe. "You risked yourselves to save us," he whispered. "We never imagined a species could be so compassionate and so powerful." Elara heard the words as she oversaw the evacuation of survivors. She knelt beside a young alien child, bandaging a small wound. "We do what must be done," she said softly. "Life is precious. We fight to protect it. That is who we are." The survivors clung to every human presence as though each touch, each gesture, was proof that hope still existed. They had seen friends, families, and entire worlds destroyed. But humans had arrived and pulled them from the edge of despair. For the first time, they dared to believe that life could continue. Even as victory was celebrated, the fleet took stock of the cost. Human lives had been lost, ships had been destroyed. Every survivor carried memories of comrades who would never return home. The deadliest human fleet had proven its strength, but it had also been reminded of the fragility of life, even for the strongest warriors. Lieutenant Kor placed a hand on Ilara's shoulder. "We did what needed to be done. We saved them. That counts for something, doesn't it?" Ilara's eyes softened, yet her expression remained firm. "It counts for everything, Kor. But we must never forget the cost. That is what keeps us human. That is what keeps us vigilant. Courage is not just in fighting. It is in remembering why we fight and for whom." Thyron approached, his glowing eyes shining with emotion. "Captain Dane, humans, you have saved not only our lives but our future. We owe you everything." Ilara shook her head, her gaze steady. "No, humanity does not save for thanks. We save because it is right, because life matters. That is the legacy we carry across the stars." In the quiet aftermath, the survivors began to heal. The injured were tended to, the lost were mourned, and stories of bravery spread across the fleet. Humans had fought fiercely, yes, but with mercy. They had risked everything to protect the innocent. And in doing so, they had left an indelible mark on the survivors' hearts. Even in sorrow, there was pride. The humans had faced an enemy that had betrayed and slaughtered, and they had emerged not only victorious but compassionate. For the aliens, this was a revelation. They had feared humans as predators, yet they now understood that humans could be the most powerful allies in the galaxy, a species capable of both devastation and mercy. Ilara stood once more on the bridge of the Vanguard, looking at the stars. Each flash of light reminded her of those lost, each distant planet a reminder of the lives yet to be protected. The galaxy was vast, dangerous and cruel, but humans had proven that courage, skill, and heart could overcome even the darkest odds. She whispered quietly, almost to herself, "We pay the cost, yes, but we protect life. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us stronger than any enemy." And somewhere among the survivors, among the stars, the galaxy began to take notice. Humans were not just fighters, not just the deadliest fleet. They were saviors, guardians, and a symbol that even in the void, hope could shine brighter than any weapon. The cost had been high. The battle had been brutal. But humanity had shown the galaxy that courage, compassion, and unyielding resolve could change everything. And in that quiet, fragile moment of reflection, the survivors realized a truth that would echo across the stars. Humans, no matter the danger, no matter the cost, would answer the call of the helpless, and that answer would shake the galaxy forever. The news of the Varkesh defeat spread across the galaxy like a storm. Holocom transmissions carried the story to distant civilizations, and whispers of the deadliest human fleet reached worlds that had never before dared to speak of humanity. But it was not just the fleet's power that amazed them. It was how humans had fought. They had arrived to save the helpless, faced overwhelming odds, and emerged victorious while protecting life, not taking it recklessly. Captain Ilara Dane watched the stars from the bridge of the SS Vanguard, the fleet now repaired and ready to move. "This battle," she said softly, "is only the beginning. The galaxy will remember today, not for the ships we destroyed, but for the lives we saved." Lieutenant Kor studied the latest reports. Worlds we've never reached. They're shifting alliances. Some tyrants are afraid. They've seen humans fight with purpose, with compassion. It's unsettling for them. Ilara nodded. Humans don't just fight to conquer. We fight to protect. That is why the galaxy fears us. And that is why the galaxy should hope for us. Meanwhile, on the newly liberated worlds, the alien survivors began rebuilding. Thyron and others worked tirelessly to restore what the Varkesh had destroyed. Slowly, life returned to shattered cities and broken settlements. Children ran among the rubble, laughter trembling on their lips, learning again that survival was possible. Adults who had long lived in despair found courage in the humans who had risked everything for them. This is impossible, Thyron murmured to one of the medics. We expected annihilation. We expected death. But humans, they gave us life. And they taught us to hope again. Even distant civilizations who had once considered humans reckless or dangerous began to reconsider. Holocom messages from thousands of light years away expressed fear, awe, and cautious respect. The galaxy had witnessed something extraordinary. A species feared for its strength but capable of mercy and compassion unparalleled in known history. On board the Vanguard, the bridge crew worked in silence, knowing the weight of what they had achieved. They had faced impossible odds, fought the deadliest enemies, and come out alive, but more importantly, they had done it without abandoning their principles. Humans had shown that courage was not measured by how many enemies they could destroy, but by how many lives they could save. Ilara's voice broke the quiet. We've done what we came to do, but there are still countless beings out there, thousands, millions, who may never receive help unless humans answer the call. That is our duty, and we will not turn away. Kor's expression was serious but proud. Every fleet across the galaxy will remember this. They'll know that humans are not just powerful, they are unwavering. They fight for justice, for life, for hope. That will change everything. And it did. Across systems, ambassadors, leaders, and rulers began to speak differently of humanity. Some who had once seen humans as a threat now sought alliances, hoping to benefit from their protection. Others who had underestimated them suddenly realized that humans could become the most formidable force in the galaxy. Not through conquest, but through their unbreakable will to protect life therein. Standing beside Ilara as the fleet departed the liberated system, gazed at the stars. I thought humans were only warriors, he admitted. I was wrong. You are so much more. You are hope, courage, and a force the galaxy cannot ignore. Ilara smiled faintly. We are who we are. Humans fight to survive, yes, but we fight to protect. That is the difference. That is the legacy we carry. The galaxy itself seemed to shift. Tyrants hesitated, knowing humans could reach any system if injustice occurred. Civilizations that had long cowered in fear felt a spark of courage, inspired by what they had witnessed. Humans were no longer just a deadly fleet. They were a symbol of justice, hope, and the unyielding strength of life. On the Vanguard, the crew shared quiet moments of reflection. Each life saved, each victory tempered by cost, left its mark. They had risked everything, and in doing so, they had shown the galaxy what humans could be: unstoppable, uncompromising, and unafraid to do what was right. Ilara looked at the blinking stars ahead, a soft wind of pride in her chest. The galaxy would remember the day humans answered the SOS. The deadliest human fleet had not only defeated enemies, it had sent a message that would echo across light years. When humans arrive, hope follows, and when humans fight for life, even the darkest forces tremble. Years passed, but the memory of the battle against the Varkesh lingered in the hearts of many. Planets once scarred by war were slowly healed, cities rebuilt themselves from ash, and the alien survivors thrived under the protection and guidance of humans. Thyron, the alien leader who had once trembled in fear, now stood tall among his people. His eyes glowed not with despair but with gratitude, hope, and respect for the humans who had saved them. Captain Ilara Dane looked down from the bridge of the SS Vanguard, watching the recovered worlds below. Her fleet had repaired, her soldiers had grown wiser, and yet the galaxy still whispered their legend. Humans had come to the edge of the void, faced impossible odds, and emerged not just victorious but merciful. They had saved life where no one had thought possible. Thyron approached her, his steps careful but steady. Captain Dane, he said softly, your species, you have changed the future of our people. You gave us hope. You gave us a chance to live and to grow. And you did so without asking for anything in return. Ilara's eyes softened. We didn't do it for thanks. Humans fight because life matters, because no one deserves to be abandoned. That is who we are. The alien leader nodded, understanding that humanity's strength was not only in weapons or fleet formations, but in heart. We will remember this forever. You are more than warriors, you are legends. Ilara smiled faintly, thinking of all the battles, all the sacrifices, all the lives lost and saved. She remembered every soldier who had fallen, every crew member who had given their life to protect others. Their courage, their bravery, their humanity was etched into the very soul of the galaxy. In the quiet of space, the stars twinkled like witnesses. Every light seemed to honor the memory of those who had sacrificed, and every shadow spoke of the enemies who had been defeated. The deadliest human fleet had left a mark on the galaxy, one that could not be erased. They had shown that humans were not only a force to be feared, they were a force to inspire, to protect and to lead. Across distant systems, civilizations whispered of the humans who had answered the impossible SOS. Some had watched from afar, expecting destruction, only to witness salvation. Others had been freed from oppression and tyranny by humans' arrival. Slowly, quietly, a legend spread. Where humans appeared, hope followed. Where humans fought, life was defended. Ilara looked toward the stars again, thinking of the countless SOS signals yet to come, the countless lives still at risk. Humanity's work was never finished, yet she felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that the deadliest human fleet had done more than win battles. They had inspired an entire galaxy. Thyron spoke again, his voice heavy with emotion. Your legacy will be told for generations. We will teach our children of the humans who arrived when all seemed lost, of the humans who showed courage, mercy, and honor beyond measure. Ilara nodded. Then let it be remembered. Not for the ships we destroyed, not for the enemies we defeated, but for the lives we saved, and for the hope we left behind. The fleet prepared to depart, engines humming, ready to answer the next call. Somewhere in the darkness of space, another SOS would flicker. Another species would tremble in fear, and when humans arrived, they would see not terror, but salvation. They would see not power for destruction, but power for protection. As the Vanguard jumped into hyperspace, leaving the liberated system behind, Ilara whispered to herself, almost like a promise, humans do not abandon life. We fight, we protect, and we endure, and the galaxy will remember this forever. The alien survivors waved from the rebuilt cities below, their glowing eyes filled with gratitude and admiration. They had learned the true meaning of courage and hope. And somewhere across the stars, the legend of the deadliest human fleet continued to grow. Not just as warriors, but as saviors, protectors, and champions of life itself. In the end, humanity's mark on the galaxy was clear. When the helpless cried for help, the humans would answer. When injustice threatened the innocent, humans would stand against it. And when hope seemed lost, humans would shine, bright and unyielding, across the endless void. The deadliest human fleet had done more than win a battle. They had changed the galaxy forever. And somewhere, in the infinite expanse of stars, the echo of humanity's courage whispered to every being that life, no matter how fragile, was worth protecting, and that the galaxy had never seen anything like the humans who would rise to answer the call.